Very chapter with Mahatma Gandhi in Wardha. As always, whenever we start the session, we tune into invoke the presence of our God and Gurus. So let us sit up straight, tense the whole body, relax 2 more times, double breathing, tense, vibrate, relax once more. Let's pray together, closing our eyes, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows, visualizing the presence of God and Gurus there. Let's pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. O great ones, help us to tune into thy consciousness. Help us to live this life following the highest principles of Dharma. May we always tune into thy will, thy guidance for us. We are thine, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. A chant and then we will. A few moments in silence with this chant, always living in the consciousness that we are these little bubbles floating on this vast ocean of consciousness. The aim is to merge back into the ocean. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today, it seems like after the Hiranyaloka, this seems to be a lighter chapter, but once we go through it, we realize it's not so light. There's still a lot to think over, to introspect on, to work on in our own spiritual journey. So here we are going to Wardha to meet Mahatma Gandhi, who was instrumental really to start, bring all different elements of freedom struggle from the British. There were people who were fighting for freedom of India from the Britishers, but he was really the one who brought it all together, and with his magnetism, a whole country um, got united as one to fight for their freedom, for their self-respect. These days, there are different narratives about whether it was really Mahatma Gandhi who helped get us freedom or not. We are not getting into all that, but we know Yogananda was very inspired. He was very impressed, He admired Mahatma Gandhi a lot. That when he couldn't go to back to the US and he still got some time, he visited Wardha. And we know that when Mahatma Gandhi was shot dead, and somebody brought ashes from his funeral and cremation, and that was it is still there in the new Saint, the last one, Lake Shrine ashram of Master. There it is still enshrined there. So he admired him a lot, and we will just find out why. So, keeping a very open mind, let us first read this chapter. Again, this is a very long chapter. I don't think we will be able to finish it all today. So we will first do 20 minutes of it, and if we are able to finish off discussion, then we will read some more. So let us start reading the chapter now.
Chapter 44, with Mahatma Gandhi at Wardha. Welcome to Wardha. Mahadev Desai, Secretary to Mahatma Gandhi, greeted Miss Bletch, Mr. Wright, and myself with these cordial words and the gift of wreaths of khadar, homespun cotton. Our little group had just dismounted at the Wardha station on an early morning in August, glad to leave the dust and heat of the train. Consigning our luggage to a bullock cart, we entered an open motor car with Mr. Desai and his companions, Baba Saheb, Deshmukh, and Dr. Pingale. A short drive over the muddy country roads brought us to Maganvadi, the ashram of India's political saint. Mr. Desai led us at once to the writing room, where cross-legged sat Mahatma Gandhi. Pen in one hand and a scrap of paper in the other, on his face a vast, winning, warm-hearted smile. "Welcome," he scribbled in Hindi. It was a Monday, his weekly day of silence. Though this was our first meeting, we beamed on each other affectionately. In 1925, Mahatma Gandhi had honored the Ranchi school by a visit, and had inscribed in its guest book a gracious tribute. The tiny 100-pound saint radiated physical, mental, and spiritual health. His soft brown eyes shone with intelligence, sincerity, and discrimination. This statesman has matched wits and emerged the victor in 1,000 legal, social, and political battles. No other leader in the world has attained the secure niche in the hearts of his people that Gandhi occupies for India's unlettered millions. Their spontaneous tribute is his famous title, Mahatma, Great Soul. For them alone, Gandhi confines his attire to the widely cartooned loincloth, symbol of his oneness with the downtrodden masses who can afford no more. The ashram residents are wholly at your disposal. Please call on them for any service. With characteristic courtesy, the Mahatma handed me this hastily written note as Mr. Desai led our party from the writing room toward the guest house. Our guide led us through orchards and flowering fields to a tile-roofed building with latticed windows. A front yard well, 25 feet across, was used, Mr. Desai said, for watering stock. Nearby stood a revolving cement wheel for threshing rice. Each of our small bedrooms proved to contain only the irreducible minimum: a bed, hand made of rope. The whitewashed kitchen boasted a faucet in one corner and a fire pit for cooking in another. Simple Arcadian sounds reached our ears: the cries of crows and sparrows, the lowing of cattle, and the rap of chisels being used to chip stones. Observing Mr. Wright's travel diary, Mr. Desai opened a page and wrote on it a list of satyagraha vows taken by all the Mahatma's strict followers, or satyagrahis: non-violence, truth, non-stealing, celibacy, non-possession, body labor, control of the palate, fearlessness, equal respect for all religions, swadeshi, the use of home manufactures, freedom from untouchability. These 11 should be observed as vows in a spirit of humility. Gandhi himself signed this page on the following day, giving the date also, August 27th, 1935. 2 hours after our arrival, my companions and I were summoned to lunch. The Mahatma was already seated under the arcade of the ashram porch, across the courtyard from his study. About 25 barefooted satyagrahis were squatting before brass cups and plates. A community chorus of prayer, then a meal served from large brass pots containing chapatis, whole wheat unleavened bread, sprinkled with ghee, tulsari, boiled and diced vegetables, and a lemon jam. The Mahatma ate chapatis, boiled beets, some raw vegetables, and oranges. On the side of his plate was a large lump of very bitter neem leaves, a notable blood cleanser. With his spoon he separated a portion and placed it on my dish. I bolted it down with water, remembering childhood days when mother had forced me to swallow the disagreeable dose. Gandhi, however, bit by bit was eating the neem paste with as much relish as if it had been a delicious sweetmeat. In this trifling incident I noticed the Mahatma's ability to detach his mind from the senses at will. I recalled the famous appendectomy performed on him some years ago. Refusing anesthetics, the saint had chatted cheerfully with his disciples throughout the operation, his infectious smile revealing his unawareness of pain. The afternoon brought an opportunity for a chat with Gandhi's noted disciple, daughter of an English admiral, Miss Madeline Slade, now called Mirabai. Her strong, calm face lit with enthusiasm as she told me, in flawless Hindi, of her daily activities. Rural construction work is rewarding. A group of us go every morning at 5 o'clock to serve the nearby villagers and teach them simple hygiene. We make it a point to clean their latrines and their mud-thatched huts. The villagers are illiterate. They cannot be educated except by example. She laughed gaily. I looked in admiration at this high-born English woman whose true Christian humility enables her to do the scavenging work usually performed only by so-called untouchables. I came to India in 1925, she told me. In this land I feel that I have come back home. Now I would never be willing to return to my old life and old interests. We discussed America for a while. I am always pleased and amazed, she said, to see the deep interest in spiritual subjects exhibited by the many Americans who visit India. Mirabai's hands were soon busy at the charka spinning wheel, omnipresent in all the ashram rooms and, indeed due to the Mahatma, omnipresent throughout rural India. Gandhi has sound economic and cultural reasons for encouraging the revival of cottage industries, but he does not counsel a fanatical repudiation of all modern progress. Machinery, trains, automobiles, the telegraph have played important parts in his own colossal life. 50 years of public service, in prison and out, wrestling daily with practical details and harsh realities in the political world, have only increased his balance, open-mindedness, sanity, and humorous appreciation of the quaint human spectacle. Our trio enjoyed a 6 o'clock supper as guests of Baba Sahib Deshmukh. At 7 p.m. prayer hour found us back at the Maganvadi ashram, climbing to the roof where 30 satyagrahis were grouped in a semicircle around Gandhi. He was squatting on a straw mat, an ancient pocket watch propped up before him. The fading sun cast a last gleam over the palms and banyans. The hum of night and the crickets had started. The atmosphere was serenity itself. I was enraptured. A solemn chant led by Mr. Desai, with responses from the group, then a Gita reading. The Mahatma motioned to me to give the concluding prayer. Such divine unison of thought and aspiration. A memory forever, the Wardha rooftop meditation under the early stars. Punctually at 8 o'clock, Gandhi ended his silence. The Herculean labors of his life required him to apportion his time minutely. "Welcome, Swamiji." The Mahatma's greeting this time was not via paper. We had just descended from the roof to his writing room, simply furnished with square mats, no chairs, a low desk with books, papers, and a few ordinary pens, not fountain pens. A nondescript clock ticked in a corner, an all-pervasive aura of peace and devotion. Gandhi was bestowing one of his captivating, cavernous, almost toothless smiles. "Years ago," he explained, "I started my weekly observance of a day of silence as a means for gaining time to look after my correspondence. But now those 24 hours have become a vital spiritual need. A periodic decree of silence is not a torture, but a blessing." I agreed wholeheartedly. The Mahatma questioned me about America and Europe. We discussed India and world conditions. "Mahadev," Gandhi said as Mr. Desai entered the room, "please make arrangements at Town Hall for Swamiji to speak there on yoga tomorrow night." As I was bidding the Mahatma good night, he considerately handed me a bottle of citronetta oil. "The Wardha mosquitoes don't know a thing about ahimsa, Swamiji," he said, laughing. The following morning our little group breakfasted early on a tasty wheat porridge with molasses and milk. At 10:30 we were called to the ashram porch for lunch with Gandhi and the satyagrahis. Today the menu included brown rice, a new selection of vegetables, and cardamom seeds. Noon found me strolling about the ashram grounds on to the grazing land of a few imperturbable cows. The protection of cows is a passion with Gandhi. Quote, "The cow to me means the entire subhuman world, extending man's sympathies beyond his own species," the Mahatma has explained. Man, through the cow, is enjoined to realize his identity with all that lives. Why the ancient rishis selected the cow for apotheosis is obvious to me. The cow in India was the best comparison. She was the giver of plenty. Not only did she give milk, but she also made agriculture possible. The cow is a poem of pity. One reads pity in the gentle animal. She is the second mother to millions of mankind. Protection of the cow means protection of the whole dumb creation of God. The appeal of the lower order of creation is all the more forceful because it is speechless." End quote. 3 daily rituals are enjoined on the Orthodox Hindu. One is Bhuta Yajna, an offering of food to the animal kingdom. This ceremony symbolizes man's realization of his obligations to less evolved forms of creation. Instinctively tied to bodily identifications which also corrode human life, but lacking in that ability of liberating reason which is peculiar to humanity. Bhuta Yajna thus reinforces man's readiness to succor the weak, as he in turn is comforted by countless solicitudes of higher, unseen beings. Man is also under bond for rejuvenating gifts of nature, prodigal in earth, sea, and sky. The evolutionary barrier of incommunicability among nature's animals, man, and astral angels is thus overcome by offices of silent love. The other 2 daily yajnas are Pitri and Nri. Pitri Yajna is an offering of oblations to ancestors, as a symbol of man's acknowledgement of his debt to the past, essence of whose wisdom illumines humanity today. Nri Yajna is an offering of food to strangers or the poor, symbol of the present responsibilities of man, his duties to contemporaries. In the early afternoon, I fulfilled a neighborly Nri Yajna by a visit to Gandhi's ashram for little girls. Mr. Wright accompanied me on the 10-minute drive. Tiny young flower-like faces atop the long-stemmed, colorful saris. At the end of a brief talk in Hindi, which I was giving out of doors, the skies unloosed a sudden downpour. Laughing, Mr. Wright and I climbed aboard the car and sped back to Maganvadi, amidst sheets of driving silver, such tropical intensity and splash. Re-entering the guest house, I was struck anew by the stark simplicity and evidences of self-sacrifice which are everywhere present. The Gandhi vow of non-possession came early in his married life. Renouncing an extensive legal practice which had been yielding him an annual income of more than $20,000, the Mahatma dispersed all his wealth to the poor. Sri Yukteswar used to poke gentle fun at the commonly inadequate conceptions of renunciation. "A beggar cannot renounce wealth," Master would say. "If a man laments, 'My business has failed, my wife has left me, I will renounce all and enter a monastery,' to what worldly sacrifice is he referring? He did not renounce wealth and love. They renounced him." Saints like Gandhi, on the other hand, have made not only tangible material sacrifices, but also the more difficult renunciation of selfish motive and private goal, merging their innermost being in the stream of humanity as a whole. The Mahatma's remarkable wife, Kasturabai, did not object when he failed to set aside any part of his wealth for the use of herself and their children. Married in early youth, Gandhi and his wife took the vows of celibacy after the birth of several sons. A tranquil heroine in the intense drama that has been their life together, Kasturabai has followed her husband to prison, shared his 3-week fasts, and fully borne her share of his endless responsibilities. She has paid Gandhi the following tribute, quote, "I thank you for having had the privilege of being your lifelong companion and helpmate. I thank you for the most perfect marriage in the world, based on brahmacharya or self-control and not on sex. I thank you for having considered me your equal in your life work for India. I thank you for not being one of those husbands who spend their time in gambling, racing, women, wine, and song, tiring of their wives and children as the little boy quickly tires of his childhood toys. How thankful I am that you are not one of those husbands who devote their time to growing rich on the exploitation of the labor of others. How thankful I am that you put God and country before bribes, that you had the courage of your convictions and a complete and implicit faith in God. How thankful I am for a husband who put God and his country before me. I am grateful to you for your tolerance of me and my shortcomings of youth, when I grumbled and rebelled against the change you made in our mode of living from so much to so little. As a young child, I lived in your parents' home. Your mother was a great and good woman. She trained me, taught me how to be a brave, courageous wife, and how to keep the love and respect of her son, my future husband. As the years passed and you became India's most beloved leader, I had none of the fears that beset the wife who may be cast aside when her husband has climbed the ladder of success, as so often happens in other countries. I knew that death would still find us, husband and wife." End quote.
Jayanti, you're on mute. So let us try to, finish what the readings we have done, if we can finish discussing the same. So here, Master is describing the ashram, and he enters the place and meets uh, Mahatma, who is on silence. And very interesting to note that, he is not using his spiritual practices as per his convenience. So if he has taken a vow of silence once a week, whatever be the situation, I mean, Paramahansa Yogananda is visiting him, yet he continues to be in his silence. He didn't let go. Sometimes people do that. I want to meditate, or I want to practice seclusion, and then somebody lands up, and then you say, okay, oh, not today, then maybe tomorrow I'll do it. He's not compromising on that. That is the willpower. That is the level of his dedication towards his spiritual practices. So he is completely silent. He's just writing and giving to Master. And this the observance of that Satyagrahi's vows that they follow is very interesting. What is it written? Non-violence, truth, non-stealing, celibacy, non-possession. Does it sound familiar? It is Patanjali's Yama, right? Non-violence, non-lying, which is truth, non-stealing, celibacy, non-possession, even what you have, not having attachment to what you already have. Non-stealing is not wanting what somebody else have, and this is on various levels. It is not just okay, non-violence, okay, we will not hit anyone. And let us understand what they were going through at that time. They were fighting for freedom from an oppressor. I mean, of Western, I mean, Britishers who didn't think twice before hitting you, killing you. They were oppressing the masses. And yet, these people took a vow that they will fight for freedom, yet, practicing non-violence. And if you remember, what did Patanjali say? That somebody who practices non-violence, the perfection of it is that even the carnivorous animals and the worst of criminals, will become tame, because there is no there is no existence of that heart's feeling where the other person has anything to fear about, or has to attack you. And the vibration itself of that person who is practicing non-violence to the perfection, is such that the other person is unable to hold on to his violence. And even, I mean, the things like tigers, and we have seen the stories of Paramahansa Yogananda, or even Sri Yukteswar, where, in one of those chapters, when Prafulla tells that we were sitting and this cobra came with its hood up, and Sri Yukteswar was clapping. I mean, any movement, and in normal circumstances, we will think that the snake will bite, because it is finding a kind of something is going to attack. Yet he was rhythmically clapping his hand, and it came close, and then put his hood down and slithered between his legs. And why? Because it didn't feel any vibration of fear, or anything to fear about from Sri Yukteswar. There was so much of love that was flowing from him. So that is the perfection of non-violence. And all these satyagrahis, along with Mahatma Gandhi, were trying to practice this. They were trying to raise themselves to that level, despite the circumstances that they were in, despite the challenges that they were facing. Saying the truth, again, during that time, I mean, the oppressor was not bothered. I mean, they were lying their way through, non-stealing, all these, and then go on to saying that they will do body labor, control of the palate. They were trying tapasya. It was a tapasya for them, what they were doing for the country. So there was this outer cause, and then they were also working on themselves, spiritually uplifting. So it is not just the freedom of the country they were fighting for, but their own freedom too, from these things, palate, the greed of when we see something you want to eat, control of that, even if you like it, or even if you're hungry, or just because I'm finding it tasty, I'll eat some more. They are stopping themselves. And again, those were the times when, as we see that what Master's talking about, the kind of food was very basic food they were eating. And so when you are presented with a feast, anybody's tendency would be like, oh my God, such good food. Yet they were making sure that they were following this particular principle of controlling the palate. Fearlessness, again, fearlessness and non-violence, they're both interrelated. Normally, when is somebody violent is when they find a fear, there is a fear, or they think that they are going to be attacked, right? And that is when, if just to save themselves, to protect this body, the people, person, or animals, whatever, is violent. So fearlessness is complementary to being non-violent. Whatever happens, even if they are faced with this oppressor who's about to kill them, they would still not be violent. And later on, Master Swamiji has written in the New Path, where Master did ask Gandhiji that in case you are in a village and there's this madman who comes in and is about to kill everyone, what would you do? And Gandhiji said, I will present myself first, so let him kill me. So Master said that wouldn't serve the purpose. So not practicing non-violence, as Sri Yukteswar has said, there's this chapter on that, living in the Master's hermitage, where he said that this planet, the perfect practice of non-violence is not possible, because we walk, we tread on the small ants and all the thing. When we are driving, this insects come and they get killed on the windscreen. When we are heating food, we are killing so many bacteria. When we are eating, we're inhaling everything. There are things that are getting killed in the process. So the perfect following of non-violence is not possible. Also, Master said that in this particular circumstances, when he had asked Gandhiji, he said that if you present yourself to be killed, I think he never said that to him because he had that respect, but he was explaining this to the monks later when he was telling the story. That, what was the point? That madman will kill him and yet go on to kill everybody else. So in that circumstance, it's okay to kill that madman, because it is necessary to protect the rest. So again, the perfect practice of non-violence again, it has to come with, somewhere being reasonable about it. And what is more important is the attitude with which we are approaching. So if I say, oh, I'll be non-violent, but in my mind I am like, thinking bad thoughts about them, some persons, negative about them. Oh, let this happen to them. How dare they? They are like, if I'm constantly, berating them, or if I'm putting them down in my actions, in my thoughts, in my behavior with somebody, even that is violence, right? So it is not so much the outward what I'm doing, but really it is what I am within me, when which nobody can see, nobody in my thoughts, nobody knows what I'm thinking at that moment. In that, if I am able to practice these things, that is more important. Each of these things is more a quality we need to develop, the quality that we need to be constantly be aware of, that okay, I'm not killing someone, or I'm not saying bad things to people, but in my mind, even for a moment, if something very negative about that person comes, there's something to watch for. That is being violent too. So the attitudes are most important in the practice of Patanjali's yamas and niyamas, right? So all these things that they have spoken about, they were also talking about freedom from untouchability, because at that time this was very prevalent, the untouchability. Okay, so then we come here where he talks about Gandhiji eating the neem leaves. He says that Gandhi ate it bit by bit with as much relish as if it had been a delicious sweetmeat. That shows the kind of detachment he was having from that palate of, enjoying what he was eating. So even if he was being presented with food, he was eating with, and Master says that I bolted it down. Now let us understand. Master has written it this way, that I remembered my childhood days, I bolted it down. But Master was already a self-realized master when he went to Wardha. He was a Paramahansa already, right? And we know the stories of Master who, even as a young boy, he had eaten that putrefied rice, when all his other friends, when they were challenging each other, he said, yeah, I can eat if you can also eat. And he just put it in his mouth. Nothing happened. And the other friends ran away. So here he's telling us how great Mahatma was, but Master himself had completely detached himself with all these things, right? So he says here, in this trifling incident, I noted the Mahatma's ability to detach his mind from the senses at will. We also know of the story of Swamiji himself doing that. He often had to go for there was problem with his teeth, so he often had to go for root canals and other treatments for the teeth, and he would always refuse for them to use local anesthesia. And he would say that the dentist would be sweating it out, because he would find that the Swamiji must be in so much pain. But Swamiji would detach his mind, and he said he would normally think of something that he enjoyed doing, or of some song, or what he needed to do, and he would completely shift his mind from that part, that oh, this is going to create pain for me. And he was able to not only withstand what was happening, not even be aware of it. And that is what Mahatma also was doing, right? He would chat with, when that operation was being done, he was cheerfully, he could detach his mind from what was happening, and so not even feel the pain that he was going through. And it doesn't come with just like that. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of willpower to practice this over a period of time, when the yogi is finally able to detach his mind from what is happening. Then Master is talking about Mirabai, and she's again all his Gandhi's satyagrahis. It is not like they're going from village to village talking to people, lecturing them that you should live like this, or this is how it should be done. They were practically showing them how to do it. So if the latrines have to be cleaned, how to clean it. It's not like you should do it like this, I'm handing over this solution, put it in that. They were cleaning it up and showing, and then also trying to show that there's nothing wrong in doing this. So you need not create a separate class of people who should be doing this and then call them they are untouchable, they are doing this. Every act of labor is equally important and it should be respected. That is what they were trying to show, that you need not, that scavenging work is not so, or that of so-called untouchables. And she says that I came to India 1925. In this land, I feel that I have come back home. Now I would never be willing to return to my old life and old interests. Again, for each one of us who are on this path, coming to Ananda is coming home, right? I don't think any of us, if we given an option, would like to step back to the life that we were all living before we found our spiritual guru, our path. It's something very similar. She had found her, guru, her purpose, her cause, the purpose of her life is what she had found, and there was no stepping back for her. So, worth thinking about, what it feels like to come back home. Okay, and here, when he's talking about the charkha, where all of them would spin the charkha, and he says Gandhi has sound economic and cultural reasons for encouraging the revival of cottage industries. Again, during the reign of the Britishers, they were very willfully closing down the local, cottage industries and trying to push their textiles into the country, and a lot of things were disappearing. So he very willfully he was trying to not only, bring it back, so that people could sustain themselves economically. Also, these are cultural things of India. So he was reviving that also. But again, he's saying that doesn't mean he was very fanatical about, no, this is, we only will wear our what we make, and we will only use what we have always been using. So he was very Dwapara that way. He was very flexible. So things that are, need there, that need to be revived or kept going, he was encouraging that. Yet he was also taking what Britishers had brought, the modern machines, the trains, automobiles, telegraph, the things that were coming up. He didn't reject that. He was adapting both, and yet not letting go of what was beautiful about the traditions and the cultural significance of what India stood for. He says 50 years of public service in prison and out. I mean, the kind of life they were living, right? Wrestling daily with practical details and harsh realities in the political world have only increased his balance, open mindedness, sanity, and humorous appreciation of the quaint human spectacle. So, I mean, anybody else in that position, who was going through so much, there was so much happening in that time, would be very difficult for them to keep their balance, be open minded, sanity, and yet have a humorous outlook. So he was able to detach themselves. He's saying quaint human spectacle. So he could see it as, a drama that was playing out. So kind of, that was such a, able to be detaching yourself from being part of it and not getting too caught up with what was happening. I mean, that again requires a lot of tapasya, lot of practice, lot of spiritual practices that he could put to be able to do that, to be able to detach himself rather than getting caught in so much happening around him. Okay, so then, so this actually shows, right? And they were meditating and they would follow all these spiritual practices. They were very much functioning, making sure that they were fighting the battle. And throughout, again, he said, no, it is an experiment with truth. So what is the truth? And the whole point is, people can say, oh, there is people, some always, many times, they detach their spirituality and then their everyday life. They'll say, I meditate, I do my puja, I do my spiritual things, and then I have this other life where I'm doing my business. I have to, take care of, you can't mix the two. this is different. There they can, they'll be giving bribes, they'll be taking bribes, they will do all kinds of ghapla, because that is, practical life. That the spirituality has no place in that. And then they come back and they'll do a lot of puja and the spiritual things. And that is where there seems to be a disconnect between this life and that life. And that is where he was trying to experiment with, is it really that way? Do we really have to live that way? Why not bring the spirituality into the practical application of whatever we had to deal with at that point of time? For him, he had a larger cause of fighting for freedom from the oppressors. But each one of us have our own battles to fight every day. As Master said, that it is a Kurukshetra, right? The war between our higher aspirations and our tendencies that take us towards worldliness. It is an everyday battle. And are we able to merge the two, or do we keep them separated? That this is my spiritual life, and this is, so out of 24 hours, 1 hour I meditate or do my puja, and the rest 23 hours, out of which, okay, 8 hours I sleep, the rest of the time is my worldly time. Doesn't merge. It is okay to cut corners. It is okay to bribe. It is okay to do this. It is okay to lie. It is, if it is convenient for me. And then I meditate. Doesn't work. And in case if we think that why is my meditation not deep enough, why am I not going deep enough, Master always said that look how you are living your rest of the day. If because the meditation should feed into your other the rest of the day, all the other activities that you do, and then all the other activities that you do has to feed into your meditation. So what are you feeding into your meditation? If it is we are fighting and we are being the behavior not right and doing all the other things that shouldn't be, that are not conducive with what being spiritual means, then obviously the meditation is not going to be deep enough, or it's going to be very restless. It's something for each one of us to think over and see, is there that merging happening or not? So here Mahatma is trying to merge the two together, right? So and then he says, punctually at 8 o'clock, Gandhi ended his silence. The Herculean labor of his life requires him to apportion his time minutely. So he is very particular. Like, this time I end this, then this I have to do this. And he sticks to it. Normally people make timetables. Today I have to do this, and then end of the day, if you look at it, how the things are undone. He doesn't do that. So there is a lot of what we say, that the yogi, what a yogi decides he has to do, he does it. That is what a yogi is all about, right? Brahmacharya is what you take charge of your energy, and you make sure that you direct that energy in the necessary direction, the right way. You are in charge of that energy, and not just letting it dissipate the way it has to be. So he was practicing that every moment by moment. He lived in that way. So here he says, years ago, I started my weekly observance of a day of silence as a means for gaining time to look after my correspondence. But then he says, now those 24 hours have become a vital spiritual need. A periodical decree of silence is not a torture, but a blessing. Again, Master always used to say, silence is the altar of God. And he would say that at least once a week, try to remain silent. And he would always say that, stay inward, come down if you have to eat food or talk to people. But what he meant was always being in silence and being at your center at all times. And he said that silence is the altar of God. It's a very spiritual practice, which Gandhi is also saying that it's no more necessity that I do it because I have to catch up with. It has become become a vital spiritual need. It is a spiritual need. So probably this can be our takeaway for the week, where we all start if not a whole day, then we can start a small portions, say next 1 hour. When I say silence, then we stay away from checking our phone, we stay away from checking the TV, what somebody is saying, or checking the mails, everything. Let's start small, and then slowly, a week after week, keep increasing the time. That one day that we are keeping on of this thing, keep increasing, where we are ultimately able to stay a whole day away. And when we say silence, also watch what we are thinking, because we can be silent when we are when with people. We can even stay away from the phone and the WhatsApp, the social media. But if we are not silent here, if this is constantly chattering, then we are not really silent, right? So it should be being aware of it. What am I doing? I mean, is it completely chattering all the time? Or we can, instead of just watching, it could be like, we can do a japa. Om Guru can be something to keep our mind occupied with something, rather than just being randomly silent and trying to keep the thoughts away from that. Instead of that, positively using it towards something else, which Master said that doing japa is very good. This can be our takeaway for the week and probably coming weeks. So till we are also able to keep it one full day rather than just a few hours or few minutes. But why not start? We always take that first step and then we can go further. Okay. And he says, I agreed wholeheartedly. Then we come here where he talks about, the cow. He says the cow to me means the entire subhuman world, extending man's sympathies beyond his species. So, one way is like, the Sanatan Dharmi, we say that cow is very pious. He's explaining why is it so necessary to take care of a cow. Why is it considered so pious? Because cow is one that he says, she is the giver of plenty. So she gives milk. The cow dung is used to, they lipo it on the floor to keep away the mosquitoes and insects. Then it is also used as a fire. In those days there was no the cylinders and methane gas, methane, yeah. So they would use the firewood and the cow dung, that the dried ones, they use it for cooking food. So a lot of things, every part of the cow's this thing, what the urine is also, they use in purification and all, etc. She gives so much. And that is why he says protection of the cow means protection of the whole dumb creation of God. When we are saying dumb, it is not like dumb, but the ones who can't speak, like the speechless ones. And then the master goes on to say that the 3 daily rituals are enjoined on the Orthodox Hindu. One is Bhuta Yagya, which is offering of food to the animal kingdom. This is again a practice that is there in any, go to Orthodox Hindu, especially villages, where even before they eat food, whatever is cooked, a part of it is kept aside to be given to the birds, the cow. And in South India, they early morning they make rangoli with rice powder. And more than, I mean, what they will say is like it brings good energy, which is definitely there, but also to feed the ants and all that are going around. It is to feed them food. That is why it is made with rice powder and not just any, chemically created powders as we use these days for making rangolis. So the feeding of the cows and animals and birds, this is a natural thing that they have to do. Though people start attaching superstition to it, but the main reason is to include everything in our everyday reality. As he's saying, Bhuta Yagya reinforces man's readiness to succor the weak, as he in turn is comforted by countless solicitudes of higher unseen beings. So he's talking about, there are devatas, there this agriculture, when we do all that, there are devatas all around, or what you can call angels. So the more we take care of the weaker, for the angels and devatas, we are the weaker ones, right? They take care of us. The more we are able to give, the more we will receive. This, as Master said, that the channel is blessed by that flow, what flows through it. So that is what it is, like, so it is all, it's a channel. If we block it here, then we stop receiving too. So that is the main cause, that we take care of those that are weaker than us. We are naturally taken care of. Okay, man is also under bond for rejuvenating gifts of nature, prodigal in earth, sea, and sky. He's saying it is, man is under bond for rejuvenating gifts of nature. It is so sad that these days we have forgotten all this, and we are just, commercializing everything. We are denuding the planet, taking what, what works for me, what I need, how can I make more money? And that is why all the troubles that the planet is going through right now. So this is very important. He's saying under bond of rejuvenating gifts of nature. The evolutionary barrier of incommunicability among nature, animals, man, and astral angels is thus overcome by offices of silent love. I mean, if we are the animals, they are, as we say, they can't talk, right? They're speechless. So communication as such is not possible. The astral angels, we can't see them, we can't communicate with them that way, the way we are used to communicating with each other. He says, which is overcome by offices of silent love. The more we give love to the animals, to the bird kingdom, to the planet itself, the astral angels love us. That is what connects the entire system of creation, silent love. Yeah. The other two daily yagyas are Pitra and Nr. He's saying that Pitra Yagya is the offering of oblations to ancestors. So that is also, people again give that in ancient times, or even now probably in villages, they give to crow, saying that, this is the offering for the ancestors. All these are very important, which are like, slowly we are losing it all, saying in the times of, we are becoming modern people, and all this has no meaning, but it does have. So that is why that yearly, whenever the Pritru things happen, the Shrad and all, are very important, and so people are still following to some extent, but he's talking about the importance of why we need to do it. And again is like, is a symbol of man's. So for this one, the Pitra is like as a symbol of man's acknowledgement of his debt to the past. The generations, what we are today is because of what has come to us, right? The genes, the value systems, the wisdom that has flown through the generations that has come to us. Everything is equal, and it's a debt for that we need to pay. Essence of whose wisdom illumines humanity today. Nri Yagya is an offering of food to strangers or the poor, symbol of the present responsibilities of the man, his duties to contemporaries, of people who are around us. Again, in those olden days, the villages and all, they would, the outside their house, there'll be a small porch, and, it's a raised platform kind of thing. Any passerby can just, during the night, just spread there and sleep and go. And people, if any stranger comes, people would, it was imperative for the householder to feed them. These things are not there anymore. People are, afraid to let any stranger come in for reasons that are, the modern world has its own challenges. Because of that, people wouldn't allow any stranger to hang around their house or enter the house. But these were so common in those days, in the olden days, because of these reasons. So, okay, in the early afternoon, I fulfilled a neighborly yagya where he goes to this. They were also running ashrams and charitable places for the children, little kids, little girls, he says. And now he's talking about what Gandhi did. I mean, Gandhi was a barrister. He was educated. I mean, he would be, when he had gone to Britain and he had studied the legal practices and all, he would wear coat, suit. He was a rich man. Then he went to South Africa, and whatever he, again, what brought him to India finally. So he's saying that he renounced an extensive legal practice which had been yielding him an annual income of more than $20,000. We are talking $20,000 in those days, which is like huge amount, to just let it go. And for what? I mean, that's why he's quoting Sri Yukteswar, says, a beggar cannot renounce wealth. If a beggar says, oh, I don't want wealth, it's because he couldn't earn it. Big deal if he says, I have renounced wealth. Now, a man who laments, my business has failed, my wife has left me, I will renounce everything and enter a monastery. Big deal. He's saying he didn't renounce anything. World, the wealth, love renounced him. So, I mean, that's nothing. But a man like Gandhi, who could, who was earning so much, for him to renounce, he practically gave everything off to the poor. Why? Because he wanted to fight for freedom for his country, for the downtrodden of that country. So he just gave everything away. And he made not only tangible material sacrifices, but also the more difficult renunciation of selfish motive and private good, merging their innermost being in the stream of humanity as a whole. So, why did he let it all go? Not because, I have a good opportunity to become famous, and I'll fight for the freedom, and then I will be. No, that was not his aim. His aim was, he just gave it up, and he just came to help the humanity come up. They were suffering, so just alleviate the suffering and help them in getting freedom from these oppressor. So there was no selfish motive, no private good. That was the ultimate renunciation that he had done, right? And his wife, I mean, okay, here was Mahatma, who had this desire to help others, the downtrodden, and he gave away everything. He gave away his own life, his whole being, but his wife stood there right next to him. She didn't question him when he didn't leave anything behind for her, and they had quite a lot of children. Nothing he gave them. She agreed. She was completely standing right next to him, and what a beautiful note she has written, where she's thanking him for that. She's thanking him for the for giving his life, for keeping God and the country before her. I mean, and she's so respectful, so thankful. She, it is like, she's learned so much from this one man whom she calls her husband, right? I think we stopped here only, right? Or yeah. Yeah, we stopped here. So I think the time is also up, exactly 30. So we will start reading the next part, the very interesting part actually. There's much to discuss in that also. So we will meet next week. So till then, thank you. Anybody wants to add anything to it, to this reading that we did? Any thoughts, any comments, anything to share?
Hi, Jayanti, am I audible? I want to say one thing that I mean so when Miraben is talking, she says that there are illiterates who needs to be educated, but in the first few paragraphs, the way Master has used the word unlettered, so it just shows how much he gives respect to everybody. He knows that they do not know how to identify the letters, but they are knowledgeable in other ways. So a lit-
Right.
this
Yeah.
small thing shows how much he respects humanity, and unlettered is a word which I haven't heard anywhere else or read anywhere else. But it just shows how his thoughts were.
Education, in the way we associate with, is not really something that makes somebody literate or illiterate or knowledgeable, or somebody who doesn't have knowledge. Absolutely, you're right. That's a interesting observation there. So yeah, thanks for sharing. So any other comments or thoughts, or we can close it?
Jayanti, very nice. I am attending it after a long time, so really found it very insightful.
Thank you.
One comment which I in the audio I heard was about the neem leaf, and you know s- uh, when Mahatma Gandhi ate it, he said that he was taking bite by bite, and master gulped it, but he knew the process by which he's doing and alienating the mind from the senses,
Absolutely.
and which is, I think, in a way kriya or something like similar. But what I really understood from this is also that master, even being a master, it's not that you have to exhibit it all the time. You do it at the will and you have knowledge of it. So it's okay to gulp down things jo kadvi hai. And even he did it with his mother, he was saying. And here is a Mahatma whom he's observing and he understands what he's doing. So that's the freedom or the will which you can exercise.
Yeah, good observation there. Right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Sunny, and thanks for coming. So, okay, then thank you for joining. Joy to you all. We'll meet next week and finish reading and discussing this chapter again. It's a beautiful chapter actually. When we go through it, there's so much to understand. One man who had so much impact on the history of India, and the way he fought the freedom struggle is like what the, I mean, it's very inspiring. Whatever be the outcome, but not letting go of the principles of spirituality and making sure that every aspect of his life was that thing, the merging of spirituality and the practical aspects were there, which is like very inspiring, and we should all be working towards it rather than keeping our spiritual life and our worldly life, everyday life, separate. Much to think over, introspect on, and start working on. Yes, thank you. Thanks for joining.